This is Matthew Cratter from Bitcoin University, and today I wanted to answer the question, should you buy the new Bitcoin spot ETFs, whether from BlackRock or another company? This is not investment advice, not tax advice, so be sure to consult with a professional when making these sort of decisions. An ETF just stands for an exchange-traded fund. It's basically something that trades like a stock. It's very easy to buy in a brokerage account, but it gives you exposure to a different asset like gold or oil or a stock index or Bitcoin in this case. So should you buy one of the new Bitcoin spot ETFs like the one about to be issued by BlackRock? I would say that really depends. It depends on whether you are thinking instead of buying one of these investments like a money market fund, U.S. government bonds, also known as treasuries or T-bills, corporate bonds, stock indices like the SPY or the QQQs, or another stock index, a stock index mutual fund, investment real estate, gold ETFs, or physical gold. The problem with these investments is they do not offer the protections that I think you need in the decade that we're in. So for example, no bonds or stocks in the world today can offer you sufficient yield or appreciation to preserve your purchasing power. Bonds don't even come close to get a high enough yield to offset the true rate of inflation, not the fake manipulated CPI that's put out by the US government. But to get enough yield to offset the true rate of inflation, you need to be what's called a yield hog, go for some very high bond yields, and in the process expose yourself to unnecessary default risk. By contrast, if you invest in a company, a stock, for example, that's able to pass through some of inflationary costs to its customers and thus preserve its margins, you may have some protection, but there's no guarantee that the company will be able to do this in the future thanks to the competitive dynamics of free market. So that's a problem with owning stocks as an inflation or investment hedge. Investment real estate, one bad tenant can easily destroy a year's worth of rent through damage or lawsuits. And in fact, it's unlikely you're making very much money in your real estate property once you factor in long-term costs like future new roofs, natural disasters that may or may not be covered by insurance companies, other maintenance, also events like what happened during the pandemic when the U.S. government paused rent payments. If you're dependent on paying a mortgage, you could run into some real financial trouble on your investment property. What's the problem with gold? Gold is outdated monetary technology. It's slow, it's bulky, it's difficult to verify, it's difficult to subdivide, and it's also done a terrible job of preserving purchasing power over the past decade. If you have physical gold and you store it in your house, you're tempting thieves. If you own a gold ETF or some sort of paper gold or gold IOU, you have huge counterparty risk. So if you were thinking of buying one of these things, I think you'd actually be much better off buying a Bitcoin spot ETF like BlackRock's instead. Bitcoin makes everything better, and ETFs are no exception. A Bitcoin spot ETF will indeed help to preserve your purchasing power and protect you from this, protect you from the money printers of the central bankers, protect you from the loss of purchasing power. In other words, the high inflation that we've been seeing and that the dollar really has seen since the founding of the Federal Reserve in 1913. So central bankers are not your friends when it comes to maintaining the purchasing power and whether your money going forward in retirement will be able to buy the same things that it does today. There's infinite fiat, US dollars, euros, yen, etc., and only 21 million Bitcoin. And that in itself tells you everything you need to know as to why Bitcoin is going to go into the millions and millions of dollars per coin. If you're enjoying this video so far, I just ask you to help to support the channel by subscribing. That's really, really important. Hit the like button, leave a comment, question, suggestion for a future topic. Also share this video with a friend or family member. That would really help out the channel. So in conclusion here, I would say buy the Bitcoin ETF or one of the Bitcoin ETFs if you must, but I would wish something even better for you. If you've come to this decision, you decide you want to allocate some capital towards the Bitcoin space, I'd like you actually to own the real thing rather than a Bitcoin IOU. The Bitcoin ETF has many, many layers of risk. When you buy it, you need to keep it inside of a brokerage account. And at some point, if you say the wrong things on social media or are otherwise guilty of wrongthink, your brokerage account could be frozen temporarily or permanently. Might just be a mistake or misunderstanding, but it could still take you 5 years to sort everything out and get your money back, in which case bye-bye Bitcoin and bye-bye Bitcoin ETF. If you're holding the bulk of your wealth in a brokerage account, you need to trust the government and bankers to do the right thing for the little guy in a financial crisis rather than doing what's best for themselves. And if you lived through 2008, you already know the answer. The bankers and the government officials and regulators, they take care of themselves and their buddies before they look out for you. Here's another problem as well. For all of these Bitcoin ETFs, the vast majority of them are going to be storing their Bitcoin at Coinbase. The only exception looks like VanEck is storing at Gemini. Fidelity is doing their own custody. But there's going to be a lot of Bitcoin, real Bitcoin, headed to Coinbase and Coinbase custody. Coinbase is already a giant honeypot for Bitcoin and is about to become an even bigger one. It's a target for governments. It's a target for thieves. And if the U.S. government wanted to seize some Bitcoin like it seized physical gold in 1933 under FDR, under Executive Order 6102, it's going to knock on Coinbase's door first. Also, Coinbase could easily make an operational or security error. This has happened before. Crypto exchanges over the past decade have gotten hacked all the time and lost Bitcoin to either external hackers or internal thieves and insiders. And in these cases, there's never enough insurance to make everyone whole, and you might have to wait 10 years or something like the Mt. Gox people are still waiting. So if you own the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF, you really should love and trust government officials, regulators, and bankers. In fact, I think you should actually pin up pictures of these beautiful men next to your bed because they're your daddy and they control you and your finances when you own a Bitcoin spot ETF. These are the men whose hands your destiny, your financial future is in, because you're not holding Bitcoin, you're holding a Bitcoin IOU when you own the Bitcoin ETF. By contrast, if you're holding real Bitcoin and Coinbase gets hacked or loses all of its coins, what happens to you? Well, if you're not holding them on the exchange, if you're holding them in self-custody on a hardware wallet, and if Coinbase loses its Bitcoin, if this Bitcoin that was held on Coinbase is really lost forever, then what Coinbase has done is it's just made what is effectively a pro rata distribution to every other holder of Bitcoin in the world. So there's still going to be infinite US dollars and other fiat coming, but now there's only going to be 16 million Bitcoin or whatever available to the world because another few million has been lost. So what does this mean? It means that if you're holding real Bitcoin, real BTC, your real BTC just got much more valuable. Holders of the ETF, if they're storing their Bitcoin at Coinbase custody, they will be wiped out. Insurance will not be enough to cover everybody. Holders of real Bitcoin will benefit massively because now their individual Bitcoins will be worth more. The spot Bitcoin ETFs are just another synthetic dollar short, and that's a cool thing, but that's not freedom money. Holding your own real Bitcoin is what gives you true freedom. You can take it anywhere in the world with you. It's not trapped in a US brokerage account. You can send real Bitcoin to anyone in the world without needing to ask anyone's permission, without needing to ask a banker's permission or a politician's permission. You can take real Bitcoin with you anywhere in the world through TSA, across borders, through airports, on boats and airplanes, in a brain wallet. You can't do that with gold. You can't do that with stocks, and you can't do it with a Bitcoin ETF. The Bitcoin ETF has huge counterparty risk, as we spoke about: BlackRock, Coinbase, government attacks, other thieves. By contrast, Bitcoin has zero counterparty risk if you store it on a hardware wallet and thus control your own private keys, rather than trusting someone else like Coinbase to control the keys. Bitcoin is what's called a bearer asset. It's a true bearer asset, like physical gold, but it's gold for the 21st century. Unlike gold, you can send Bitcoin across digital channels rather than needing to ship it on trucks or boats or in armored cars or in planes, which is extremely expensive and inefficient. Unlike gold, Bitcoin can be easily and cheaply assayed or verified in a matter of minutes. Unlike gold, Bitcoin can be easily subdivided and zapped anywhere in the world. So in conclusion, I'd say buy a Bitcoin spot ETF if you must, but don't buy it if you can hold the real thing instead. And if you're worried about holding it in a retirement account, there are now ways to hold real Bitcoin, either using Swan, companies like Swan, or Unchained, that will allow you to own Bitcoin in a retirement account. So I'd encourage all of you, especially if you're new to the channel, learn how to use the world's most powerful monetary technology, which is Bitcoin. This is like learning how to use the internet in the 90s and early 2000s. If you learned how to use these tools, it really empowered you and also enriched you. Learning how to use Bitcoin is going to be an essential skill for those who want to remain free in the coming decade of huge political and economic upheaval. You know you can't trust the bankers, so learn how to be your own bank. You can watch this video I made about how to be your own bank using Bitcoin, and I'll also link you to all my videos on YouTube, and so you can dig a little bit deeper depending what level of the journey you're at, how much you know about Bitcoin. There's a search button right here where you can search anything you want to know, and it's quite likely that I've made a Bitcoin video about it. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that subscribe and like buttons. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video, and let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.